or wherever anyone in a high-vis vest is. If you want to wash your hands, please go into the SU over here. Please wash or sanitize your hands regularly and after coming into contact unintentionally with any other attendee or piece of equipment. Please observe good coughing and sneezing etiquette. That is, to cover your face with your elbow, even when wearing a mask. We all know the drill at this point. You cough like this. Please wear a mask at all times unless you are exempt. If you did not bring a mask today, that's okay. We have plenty. Come see somebody in a high-vis vest, and we'll make sure you get one. Please observe social distancing throughout this activity. Stay 2 meters apart from other people at all times. Don't block foot traffic for people not involved in the protest. We're in a big open area, but we have to make sure that people not involved in the protest can't get through. So please make room for them as they come by. If you're concerned about a child or a vulnerable person present, you should speak to a marshal. Again, that's anybody wearing a high-vis vest. Excellent, let's have a healthy and safe rally.
Thanks everyone for coming. My name is Mark Pendleton. I'm the branch secretary at the Sheffield UCU branch. We like to joke sometimes in our committee that we represent the best branch in the University College Union. And can I just say, coming to the biggest today, I don't think that's a joke. I was so impressed with how many of you are out today. So thank you everybody for standing up and demanding what is right. Thank you very much. We've got a great set of speakers for you today. They're going to be talking through a range of issues that are affecting us here at Sheffield, both on campus locally, in the national landscape of higher education, and in the communities that we live in across the city. So, first off, I'm going to go drive straight into it, and welcome to the stage, Martha Foles.
Hi everyone, it's brilliant to see so many people here today. I'm Martha Foles, I'm a student, casualised worker and Unite rep at the university. As a certain manager once said, I'm an Aldi student and proud of it. And this is a great coalition of proud Aldi students and workers. I'm not going to start off today by just talking. It's bloody cold, and I think we need to make some noise. So, if you're from Sheffield, I want you to give me a scream, a shout, some noise. Uni of Sheffield, can we beat that? I'm not sure you did, but you know, I'll let it go. And then, where are we in the university? I think I want to hear from the professional services staff to start with. Make some noise for professional services. And if you're from arts and humanities, it's your place to make some noise. I think arts and humanities are winning so far. What about engineering? That was certainly an effort. Let's maybe try better next time, but good effort. What about medicine, dentistry and health? Another good effort. And what about science? Very good. What about the best science, social science? Very good, very good. As I said, I'm working with Unite the Union, one of the 3 campus unions, and I want to start by sending a message of solidarity from Unite. We stand with you every second of this dispute. You know, you had our backs when it came to firing me higher and the fight over cleaners' pay, and we return that unequivocally. We stand with you. And through those disputes over firing me higher and cleaners' together. And when we come together, we can really change things for workers. When the university, shamefully, at the height of the pandemic, tried to fire and rehire 8,000 staff on inferior pay, we came together and fought those proposals. Because it's unacceptable to have, poverty pay when the Vice Chancellor at the university earns around 13 grand a month. And we came together again and stood against low pay, particularly for cleaners, the people that kept this university safe and keeping this university safe during the pandemic. So, round of applause for the cleaners. And we know this dispute is about so much more. And that includes the the unequal pay gap for particular workers. And we must reject suggestions on that line that strikes are somehow disableist and targeting disabled and working class students. Because this strike is about fundamentally about equality. It is unequal pay and overwork and shit conditions that target disabled, working class workers, workers of colour, women workers. So don't let ourselves be divided by people that suggest this strike will disproportionately target people from marginalised backgrounds. If you want to weaponise marginalised students as a way to get around supporting this strike, do it with your chest. But don't kid yourself. It's management that are putting marginalised workers and marginalised students in such horrific circumstances. It's not workers that are taking action to protect their terms and conditions. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. Solidarity!
Thanks, Martha. Inspiring as always, although maybe a bit quiet on the microphone. Do we have the microphone?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds a bit better. Getting there? Good. All right, great. Thank you very much, Martha, and inspiring as always. And it's really been a fantastic couple of years of working really closely with the Unite and Unison branches here to advance the interests of all workers on this campus, not just those of us who are members of UCU. So, as always, great to have you along today. The next speaker is from the UCU branch. It's Matthew Mallock, who is our pensions officer. He's just going to talk very briefly about the pensions element of our dispute. Thanks, Matthew.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you everyone really for being out here today. Pensions sits alongside the four fights as one of the main causes of our current national and regional dispute. I know that the details of sorry? Can you hear me now? So I said thank you everyone for coming out today. Pensions is one of the two main fights in the regional dispute alongside the four fights on pay and pay inequality and working conditions. I also know that the details of pensions are as boring as it gets. Discount rates, guilds, all these things that that just make you want to go to sleep. So I'm kind of boring. I won't have the same exciting speech as Martha. But all of this is part of the same picture. Ever since higher education was marketized, you see it everywhere, rising student costs. You see cutting back on student resources for mental health and whatnot. You see the fact that we haven't had a real pay rise. in 16 years. Our real pay has been cut, and our future pay, our pensions are getting cut. And we get told, well, don't worry about it, it's later. Or, well, why should you have better pension packages than the private sector? You give me a private sector pay package and you can ask me that question. Until then, you leave it alone. Education should be about students, about knowledge, about training, about mentoring. Remember, our working conditions are our students' learning conditions. We all know that. And what we're seeing is the failed marketization, turning universities into businesses. We're seeing it take its toll on all of us. That's why I'm out here when I'd rather be teaching or I'd rather be in my lab. I'm a particle astrophysicist. I'd rather be studying the secrets of the universe than worrying about how I'm going to support my disabled partner when I'm retired. The last thing I will say is we are talking about education, we are talking about students, and we're talking about workers. And so I am deeply, deeply ashamed that the labor-led council is about to cross the picket line to hold their meeting in the octagon. And I am going to walk over there right now so they can look me in the eye as they cross the picket line.
Thank you, Matthew. Our next speaker is a councillor representing the Green Party, Brian Homeshaw. He's Broomhill and Sharrowvale Sheffield Green Party councillor and executive advisor for sustainable neighbourhoods, wellbeing, parks and leisure. Welcome, Brian.
The worst thing is getting up on these steps. I thought I was going to trip. Sorry. Never mind. Right, Councillor Brian Homeshaw here. I spoke at the Save Our Ecology Department rally, and I'm very pleased, thank you, and I'm very pleased to be here today. I want to say that in supporting this rally, why culture is important. Culture is important because the cultural and creative sectors are quite simply always led the way in progressive social change. In areas we take for granted, racial and gender equality, democratic rights, they wouldn't be here without you as creative people. They would not have been allowed to take root and to flower had it not been for the artists, the musicians, the researchers and the diggers into our history. These are the illustrators, the recorders of our society. And at a moment in society, they take a photograph in an artistic and creative way. They focus in on injustice and make it appear like a kind of magic in their books, their poems, their songs, their works of fiction. Secondly,
that'd be brilliant.
They inspire empathy, creating connections between human beings in extraordinary and unique ways. Empathy and understanding is essential to the functioning of a state and of a stable, healthy, innovative and forward-thinking society. It's the most important element through which social identity and a sense of community can be fostered in a large social grouping. I could take Sheffield as an example to show how culture runs through and benefits our society. I'm not going to do that this time. I recently visited Coventry. It became City of Culture in 2021. You could say that is an artificial construct, yet Coventry has resisted a top-down approach. Go and see it for yourself. It's democratised and made local what could have been a government agenda. And there are grassroots initiatives there like the Coventry Music Museum, art shop front windows throughout the town, huge and glorious murals springing up, and a new city centre green space created through cultural investment money. The Turner Prize Works exhibition, all the works are gathered there in one building in Coventry to be viewed and experienced by Coventry people and visitors for the first time. Little pockets of money have been distributed throughout the city, and unearthing of the buried river, deculverting, which has led to a frog-inspired, how fantastic is that, trail of community artworks based on a frog theme. But it came from local people, that idea. Rivers are being opened up and frogs will come leaping out. That's the idea. Most exciting to me has been a groundbreaking initiative which the City Council has handed over 27 heritage sites. 27 heritage sites. That's 27 buildings to a local community trust which is restoring them for public use. City Culture happened in Hull and Derry and many other places in recent years. It's the power and energy of investing in your culture, and I hope it happens in Sheffield too. We also need to be a city of culture. It's bubbling under already. If not officially, we'll do it anyway. Culture can survive and thrive in the most extreme and dangerous circumstances, but we're not going to let it, are we? We're not going to put it in that position. We're not going to allow a default situation where we are facing, which we are facing in the universities, not speaking up and condemning actions of the universities in reducing or removing courses entirely because they are not cost effective. Economic viability shall not be allowed to become the only benchmark of our society. Do not accept this loss and resist the removal of our cultural institutions. And I'm just going to finish off by saying about the dispute which we're now part of today. My father was a shop steward in the AUEW, the engineering union in Sheffield. He never crossed a picket line. He didn't say don't do it. It was just part of the culture that we grew up in at that time. I'm here today to say I'm due to attend a council meeting. But I'm also here to say to you, I will not be crossing that picket line if there is one there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. We hope many of your fellow councillors join you in taking that step of solidarity as well. Before we move on, Maurice, unable here? Great, okay. Just start the timetable a little bit because we've got lots of Sorry, is that better? Yeah. Okay, you can do it now. So we've got two speakers here from the IWG union. These are delivery drivers who are about to take strike action in our city of Sheffield, starting next week on the 6th of December, over a 24% pay cut. And so we're going to ask them to come and give us a brief explanation of what's going on here in Sheffield with delivery driver workers in the IWGB. Welcome.
Hello? Can everyone hear me? Yeah. So I'm managed. I work for Just Eat, legislating from Stuart, and obviously they're trying to give us a pay cut. We're here to fight with the students today because they've been fighting with us all the way, if you don't know. So basically it's going to start on the 6th of December, 5 o'clock till 10 o'clock, striking with McDonald's, week by week. We're going to expand it, going with KFC, Burger King, etc. We don't think it's right. Yeah, we don't think it's right to have to take a pay cut because everything's gone up. Gas, electric, petrol, diesel, national insurance, even the minimum wage is going up in April, and they want to strike our pay, which is not right. So that's why we're here to fight with the students and get everyone together and go fight in a positive direction. I want to big up Ed. Ed's been with us all the way, guiding us, telling us what to say and what to do. He's been a big support, so shout out Ed for that. Shout out to IWBG. We're there to support self-employed workers that are not getting treated fairly. So big them up as well. And big yourselves up for being here and supporting. I want to leave with a chant. I'm going to say, Justine, you've got high. And then I want you lot to say, we can see your dirty side. Yeah? Justine, you've got high.
We can see your dirty side.
Justine, you've got high.
We can see your dirty side.
Justine, you've got high.
We can see your dirty side.
Thank you so much. Please do support the strike. There are some leaflets going around as well about that. So with some more information, IWGB is the union that's working with those delivery driver workers on their action from next week. The other reason why we're here today, we've heard a lot about the national landscape and what's happening locally in the city, but obviously locally at Sheffield, we heard earlier this year the plans to close the Department of Archaeology and ongoing plans to restructure in ways that staff and students did not recognise or understand the languages departments of this university. So our next group of speakers are going to be talking about what's happening here locally. As always, my branch, the University of College Union, stood up and said no to the university. We have a local mandate to strike and take industrial action over those changes, and we expect to implement that in the new year if the university does not reverse its decision. So for now, I'm going to start off with Umberto Alvarello, who's a professor of archaeology and he's central in the campaign.
Thank you, Mark. People who know me know that I don't prepare my speeches. I just wanted to talk through my heart. And because this is a very emotional moment for many of us, and in many different ways, so it's so wonderful to see so many beautiful people gathered here. Thank you very much for coming. And to see how a real university looks like. And not the grey rooms so that I see many committee meetings. Okay, that's the real university. I just want to say this rally is organized by a group of people. First of all, I would like to acknowledge my branch of the UCU, the Sheffield branch. I hope that people realize here that we have a very special branch in Sheffield, and we are very lucky for that. So could we have a big One thing that I know is as an archaeologist, as part of a department has been under attack. One thing I have known from the day one is that the Sheffield UCU has been with us all the way along. The other element of the organization of this rally is the Save Sheffield Archaeology campaign. You know, in the last 6 months we've come a long way, and the whole world has been up in arms to protest against the closure of our department. And I think we've done our bit to push that particular situation. Great support we have had from the Trade Union Council, which is here represented by my colleague Bob Jeffrey, who works with Alan, who will talk in a minute. And I just want to acknowledge the great support we have had from that. So could we have a big shout for the Trade Union Council? And last but not least, I should acknowledge the Sheffield Student Union, and was strongly supported our rally, so strongly supported our strike. So let's have a big shout for the Student Union. I think in this situation, because we are used to be exploited, really. Yeah, we have come to this point. There are a number of people who have worked very hard to organize this, and I think I would really like to acknowledge them individually. And I think if there is one person who is really has worked the hardest of all in organizing this, is my colleague and former student Angela Maccarinelli. Can we have a shout for Angela? And other people here, Lenny Salvagno, who you may see actually is collecting money going around for the hardship fund. Here she is. And my colleague Lizzie Craig, who has organized the talk. Some churches you have met before. A big thank you to Mark Pedlington for sharing this. Mark always with us, always prepared to help. I have a special thank you for people who come from outside Sheffield to support us. Colleagues from the University of Leicester are here and will speak in a minute. Leicester is another university who has been subjected to horrible treatment by its management, to the point that it's currently boycotted by UCU, and rightly so. So I'm very grateful to people from Leicester for being here and supporting us. And also, we soon have people from the University of Liverpool. Liverpool has run an absolutely legendary strike recently, and one of the things that has been amazing is that they managed to bring the number of redundancy to 2, and they carried on striking, putting to fruition really the UCU motto, one of us, all of us, okay? I think to honor really the Liverpool example, could we say it all together? One of us, all of us, together. One of us, all of us. Stronger, the Vice T hasn't heard it. One of us, all of us. So thank you, Liverpool, for being such a great example. And there are also colleagues from the University of York here. So thank you, everybody, for the support. The other thing I would like to mention is this rally, as you know, we've called it United Against Cultural Vandalism. What do we mean for that? I would like you to emphasize the word united. Why did we use it? Well, what do we mean? Well, we mean many things. There are different layers to it. One of these, which is important to remember, is that staff and students are united in the same fight here, okay? And that's one thing we wanted to emphasize. But also it's the unity of people who are oppressed all over Sheffield, all over the country, and all over the world. We have heard of the strike of the bus driver, but our fight is the same as the strike of the cleaners, and also all the people around the world who are fighting against injustice. So there is this thread that unifies all of them. And in my imagination, I see this thread to be green and red. I don't know why. It's something that I dream. Okay, and it unifies people from Britain, from Chile, from China, and from Hong Kong, and from everywhere in the world. Okay, so we are part of this bigger battle. But the other word, the other expression I want to emphasize is cultural vandalism, which is an expression that we've used many times. Why are we emphasizing vandalism? It is not the vandalism of the hooligans. It's not the vandalism of the crazy person who goes to a museum and defaces a statue. It's the vandalism which is much more dangerous, and it's the vandalism that sometimes gets overlooked. It's the vandalism of the gray man in a suit, which is the same vandalism which is destroying our environment all over the world and is creating social oppression. And I'm not afraid to see that to say that it is the vandalism, which I'm afraid is personified by the management of this university. You know, because it is vandalic to sack people, to get rid of people, as the University of Leicester has done, just because they don't fit their particular ideological framing, or to kind of get rid of entire departments because they just don't fit their own particular plan. But what these people are really doing, and these people I mentioned before are no exception, they are basically following a particular political climate. They are jumping on a bandwagon, not for financial interest of the university, but for their own personal interest. These people are not leaders, they are followers. They are followers of a reactionary political environment. You know, it's amazing. You know that people like that, they go to leadership courses. Can you believe that? I would like to go to these leadership courses sometimes to see what happens there. What is it that they learn? I think they probably learn how to be police, how to use a top-down approach, or maybe they learn how to be cowards. Perhaps they learn how to we have had our personal experience. They learn how to tell people that they are going to be made redundant or their departments are going to be closed without even having the courage of looking at them in the face. Or perhaps they learn how to classify students according to supermarket brands. This is the sort of things that they learn. We have had enough of this. We can't go on like this. They have created an absolutely toxic environment in the university. And I have no hesitation to say that if we want to move on, these people have got to go. They have got to resign. So basically, my final message is this. Whether we are archaeologists, whether we are sociologists, doctors, students, staff, whatever we are, we can't go on like this. We have got to respond. Are we going to win? Listen, I don't know. And if I have to be honest with you, I don't care. Because people like us, when they see injustice, we respond. Okay? Did the suffragettes know that they were going to win? Did the people who fought against racism, did the people who fought for democracy knew they were going to win? They didn't know, and eventually they did. But many of them lost their livelihoods. Some of people lost their lives, but they carried on fighting. So that is my message. Thank you for being here. You are beautiful people. Please respond to injustice all the time. Don't make calculations about what is going to be the outcome, because eventually history will prove that we have been right. So keep fighting, keep holding the line, and keep being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Umberto. While you were speaking there, Umberto, I was reminded that today is World AIDS Day, which is why I'm wearing the red ribbon. And just this last week I was reading a new book, New Political History of the organization ACT UP New York by Sarah Schulman, called Let the Record Show. And she reminded us in that history of that activist group in New York that ACT UP never mobilized a majority of people with AIDS or their supporters, but what it did was change the narrative around HIV and AIDS. By showing up weekly and daily in activist meetings and demanding what was right, they changed the course of history. And what Schulman said, and I think it's really helpful for us to remind us today, to what Umberto was saying, is that a few committed activists, when focused on being effective, can accomplish a lot. And the Safe Sheffield Archaeology campaign is showing us that at the moment here at Sheffield. So thank you. The other half of the major issues that are going on here at Sheffield locally are affecting the departments, various departments in the university that teach languages. So our next couple of speakers are from the School of Languages and Cultures. First up, David McCallum.
Thank you. Can you all hear me all right? Excellent. Let me tell you about our experience of cultural vandalism in the School of Languages and Cultures. In February 2021, SLC was presented with a vision for languages. This was cooked up in secret by the Pro VC of Arts with a small group of cronies and lackeys. It was a top-down corporate vision built around the twin pillars of ignorance and arrogance. In its first phase, it stripped out all of our language-only staff from SLC and transferred them to the Modern Languages Teaching Centre, thereby breaking a fundamental link between language and culture that lies at the heart of our degree programmes. This involved obliging retirements for certain colleagues. One colleague was demoted after 17 years of exemplary teaching service. MLTC colleagues were burdened with new curricula and no time to prepare for them. And all of us who taught languages in SLC for 10 or 20 years were massively de-skilled overnight. Shame indeed. In the face of blanket opposition, this restructuring was nonetheless railroaded through in the summer. The widely predicted chaos has taken no time at all to manifest itself, despite management promising our students that they would have a seamless transition to the new working arrangements. It has been a time-tabling Chernobyl, to be quite honest. Our brilliant professional services staff worked night and day to fix this, but they were given neither the time nor the tools to do so. So some students are now timetabled with 6 or 7 consecutive hours of intensive language instruction. This is disgraceful and does not represent a proper education. Language class sizes have grown unmanageably. Pastoral care has splintered. Vulnerable students are now required to have different reports to both SLC and to the Modern Languages Teaching Centre. So why? One of the reasons given for this rather unholy shit show is that we allegedly need to bring about financial stability to the School of Languages and Cultures. Lectures in financial stability from this University Executive Board. The University Executive Board that oversaw a 65 million rebuild of a vanity real estate project for social sciences, that squandered 30 million on a tech infrastructure project that they were told repeatedly would fail. But it's us in Archaeology and SLC who have to be financially prudent. We could be eminently sustainable financially if only the university chose to invest in us. Instead, it prefers to asset strip our programs in order to cover and offset their gross financial mismanagement. This restructuring is not then how the faculty presents it as good crisis management. It's far from that. It's management by crisis. Restructures and reviews are designed to keep us destabilized, vulnerable, worried about our jobs, so we might be less likely to resist. But they have seriously underestimated us. They have underestimated colleagues in SLC, in the Modern Languages Teaching Centre, and our brilliant students. We have said no to these plans already. We say now, collectively and vocally, no again to these plans. The Philistines have taken over the Faculty of Arts. They're coming for archaeology, they're coming for us. And if they're allowed to have their way, they will come for you next. I can assure you of that. So that has to stop here. It has to stop now. And we thank you so much for your immense show of support, for your solidarity and the strength that you give us as a school. So thank you very much for being here today.
Continue on that theme, Sophie Watt as well from the School of Languages and Culture.
Thank you for being here. So as David told you, phase 1 has been bulldozed in SLC. And in SLC, which is, by the way, the School of Languages and Culture, we do not teach languages anymore. With phase 2 of this restructuring, we are now seeing the cultural content of our program being totally devalued and in some areas completely deleted. We have been asked to take accountability for the deficit of the school, but most of the staff have no managerial responsibilities and have otherwise fulfilled every part of their contractual obligations and more. As far as I know, most of us are not self-employed. We don't have to take accountability for a deficit we have not created. So now we have been set strict objectives, such as decreasing staff-student ratio, which will have an impact on the quality of the teaching, closing modules with fewer than 15 students, which will make small languages disappear from our teaching landscape, and streamlining the teaching, which will inevitably dilute the content of our modules, which are the core of our recruitment. But most importantly, we have been reminded of the vision for SLC, the priority for SLC, which is to create a center for translation, interpreting and applied linguistics to be made operational by 2025. But where will the current SLC staff fit with this overarching vision that has been decided for us? When most of us are literary, cultural and political scholars, how will we be able to safeguard our area of expertise, the teaching of literature, history and cultures? If that's not vandalism, I do not know what is. So in faculty's work, this will require a staff review. So redundancy in SLC and probably elsewhere have clearly not been ruled out. So SLC might not be shut down yet, but the top-down approach to its restructure, the overarching vision, and the imperatives within which we have been invited to take part will naturally make a lot of us redundant. The decision-making processes remain very obscure. Communication, including to our students, are extremely centralized. We've actually been told not to communicate directly with our students. And we are told to participate in a future of a school, but dissent is not welcome. So, unfortunately, like the future of archaeology, the future of languages at Sheffield has already been decided, despite our best efforts to say no. We now need to defend the future of culture and literature, as this is the next step in the complete commodification of education in arts and humanities. Today, more than ever, we cannot pretend that the teaching of culture is safe in Sheffield. We need to stand united and determined.
Thank you, Sophie. Now, the things that are happening at Sheffield, as the Burgess said, have been attracting attention from all over the community. And we've got people coming here with long experience of the Department of Archaeology and the archaeological landscape more widely. So first up, I'm going to invite John Collis, who's Emeritus Professor of Archaeology and an internationally renowned expert on the European Iron Age, and has been a vocal supporter for the Save Sheffield Archaeology campaign. Welcome.
Okay, can you hear me all right? Well, I have in fact an interest in both areas. I'm an archaeologist, but my wife taught languages, and both my sons have gone into teaching and examining and translation of languages. And both are areas which deal with different cultures from our own. Archaeologists dealing with the ones from the past, the languages dealing with cultures in the modern world. And these are things that we need to understand, that there are different people out there. I have had connections with this university going back to 1967, when I came for an interview for a job which I thankfully didn't get, and went off around Europe learning what other people were up to. But I was first appointed 50 years ago as a lecturer on January the 1st, 1972, and I taught here for over 30 years. So I think I have a bit more knowledge in certain respects of this university than most of the members of the university executive board and other senior members. So they should be listening to people like me who perhaps have a bit more experience, and certainly in my area of archaeology I have a lot more knowledge than they do. When the department was founded in 1978, coming out of ancient history, there was no member of the staff which was over 40. We were a young group of people who had to make our way in the world, but basically we were left alone to get together our own curriculum, to decide how we were going to teach the subject. And the result of this bottom-up approach was that we set up a methods and ideas for teaching archaeology based on scientific approaches and with our own ideas of what our theoretical and methodological basis should be. And that approach has gone around the world. Bottom up is better than top down. Archaeology in many universities became independent of the studies that of the subjects we have been forced to teach under, like history and classics and here ancient history. But this is something the UEB now wants to reverse and to fragment us, to be teaching little bits in other departments. We are an entity. We are also in the 1970s, 1980s, there was enormous revolution in archaeology, in the profession. A huge expansion from about 100 or so professional archaeologists up to several thousand. And in this, Sheffield graduates played a very prominent part. And we are now a fully fledged profession with our own chartered institute. But now we have non-archaeologists who are trying to teach us how we should teach archaeology. And I'm afraid they're just incompetent. Would they simply say, would they try and dictate to the architects and to the medics and the lawyers and the engineers and the chemists and so on how they should be teaching their subjects? Why are archaeologists being treated with such contempt by the administration here in the university? There was no proper discussion really, just a pretense of consultation. And at the council meeting where it was decided to close archaeology, quite honestly, it was a farce, it was a disgrace, it was a kangaroo court. There was no consultation about the paper which was presented to council, written by the university secretary, which was full of mistakes and misrepresentations. They say, for instance, that there was a lack of leadership in the department. Well, that to a certain extent is true, but the lack of leadership was not in the department, it was from the university. They were the ones who failed us. So, just as an example of the information that was put to council, there were claims that there were only positive and neutral reports in the press. Not the press that I saw. In fact, it was just shock and horror right the way across, well, I was going to say Britain, but across the world at what was happening. There was evidence which was just not presented. I and the other 6 emeritus professors wrote a letter published in the Sheffield Telegraph, complaining about the way in which the process had gone on. This was not presented to the council. There was a letter from the British Academy, signed by 43 of the most prominent archaeologists in this country. That was not presented. And there was also an official complaint by the students about the way they had been treated. But this was not considered because they had sent it to the wrong committee. Having looked at this, I find it very difficult to know which committee they should have sent to. But they never dealt with the actual basis of what the complaints were. We were just pushed to one side. They also ignored the advice that they got from the Senate, where the recommendation of more than half of those who members of the Senate who wrote in to say what their view was, said that the archaeology department should continue and survive. And most of all, there was no one to represent archaeology at that meeting. We were just left out. So the department was just condemned to death with no right to appeal. So one of the things I would say we ought to try and get is an independent committee to deal with these sorts of complaints against the administration. We need to have a bit more independence. In the 1990s, when I was head of department, I ran into problems with the administration and had big rows with them. But in the end, they listened and we got things changed. I don't find this with the present administration. There is a lack of general confidence, really, now within local society here in Sheffield and St. Yorkshire in what is going on. And there is a boycott by the Hunter Archaeological Society, which has had close connections for over 100 years with the university. This society has just had enough. And similarly, we see a lack of confidence within the university with what the senators have done and with what the union has now done. We don't trust these people. We need, if we if they did to football teams what they doing to archaeology, we would now have no football teams in Sheffield, at least in the league. We need to reform, we need to invest, but there are problems at the heart of the very problems at the very heart of the university administration, and these need to be addressed. A strike is unfortunately a very blunt instrument which does nobody any good. But in the end, one gets into a position where one has no choice. And so my message is, things in the university have to change. Good luck to the strike, and good luck to
John. I think that's a really helpful reminder of who is the university. It's the staff and students that generation upon generation have built this institution into the place it is, not the cronies that are sitting up there in that office who will move on after a year or two to destroy somewhere else. So thank you, John. I think that's true. We invite up some representatives of the student union. It's been great to see the student union officers out talking to people on pickets today, and the support we've had from the student union has been fantastic today and in the lead up to today. And we're going to be hearing from Savannah Hampton is the SU Education Officer, and she's studying politics and international relations, and Taylor Ogle, who's the SU International and Community Officer, who initially studied in the Archaeology Department and is now taking an MA in journalism. So welcome Savannah, and then Taylor after that.
Hi all, nice to see you all. I'm Savannah, as already mentioned, and I used to study politics and international relations. I'm Education Officer here at the University of Sheffield Students' Union. Here at the SU, as your student representatives, we absolutely stand in solidarity with staff and students against the marketisation of our university and the failure to protect the future of our academic communities and departments. We oppose departments being considered as individual economic entities, as they have done when making this decision to close the Archaeology department and make changes to the School of Languages and Cultures. The first time I heard about these plans being made was during my handover week, shadowing the previous education officer and attending the rally in June. It's unfortunate how that was my first ever exposure to what was happening when so many of you have clearly been fighting this battle for months and months in advance. Even to this day, when I speak to students and friends, so many are still not fully aware of what's going on, and most importantly, how this is not just an archaeology SRC problem. Universities should be diverse in every possible way that they can be, and this is intrinsic to building a vision of an enriching campus life. It's the same logic used. Sorry, I don't use Google Docs on my phone. Goodness me. It's the same logic used. Sorry guys. It's the same logic used by the university to close the department continues to be applied to others. It brings danger to the majority of departments in this university who are deemed not profitable or oversubscribed. When we treat departments in such an individualistic way, it creates false competition. The government's ongoing attack on arts and humanities in higher education and the author review will only make this worse. There's a false narrative being pushed that only subjects like, say, science and engineering are ought to be considered as high value subjects. But what makes something high value? Are we saying that only subjects where the result is what's considered perhaps a high-paying job? Or I mean, why do we come to university? Surely it's much more than that. Certainly a job helps and is necessary in this current system that we live in, but surely this narrow mindset causes us to lose sight of what the purpose of universities was and should be. The knowledge exchange, the connections made, rigorous debate, research, but clearly not. Because if we did value world-leading research, then what logic is there to a world-leading department like archaeology being closed? Unfortunately, our university university is frankly not doing enough to protect us and its values in academic communities. We should be working together as students, staff and senior managers to proudly define what we believe a university should and could be, and show its value beyond what they earn. This point in time of the university's chance to stand strong and set their values out clearly, but again the first to do that so far. As many courses across the country which currently offer opportunities to study close to home, archaeology, for example, is especially supposed to be an inclusive department and for people from all walks of life with the joint passion of learning and of course of archaeology itself. And yeah, I have met students that are having to decide whether they would need to fork out to commute for hours a day to another institution and in turn spend less time with their children and families. The university's response has been short-sighted. Although the proposal referenced the lack of demand for an archaeology degree or a career in archaeology, archaeology is listed as a shortage occupation by the government. Demand can be built given time and investment, which as far as I know was frequently asked for. This is certainly, as we hear now, I repeat, our department is like a world-renowned one and has the potential to be a front-runner in environmental sustainability, social justice and community integration, all of these values which the university claims to uphold. The process that has happened with archaeology has not been open, it's not been transparent and was announced during an assessment period for students. They didn't include all of the trained academic reps that we have, and in the consultation, the inclusion of the SU Education Officer last year was in the review process. We'll continue to call for a bespoke student protection plan and remind the university of the student protection plan commitments that they're supposed to adhere to, but previously ignored. And I, in this role at least, will continue to spread the word. We know that there's an attack on higher education, and this is not just a Sheffield problem. We need to be using our privilege as a Russell Group university to stand as a leader in the higher education sector, not by closing our department, but by investing in the talent and academia that is grown and nurtured. Thanks all again for coming.
I'm the International and Community Officer at our Students' Union. I hope I'm not shouting too much. However, I'm also a 2020 graduate of the Department of Archaeology here at the University of Sheffield. As everybody knows by this point, we're here today to call on our university, on other universities, on the higher education sector as a whole, to recognize the value in our arts and humanities, and to stop their persistent and blatant cultural vandalism by way of removal of courses, of departments, and fundamentally of opportunities for future generations of students. I wanted to tell you a little bit about how I came to study archaeology here in Sheffield. I'm from the United States. If you can't tell from my accent, to shout. And I moved to the UK back in 2016 to pursue my education. The reason I did this wasn't strictly for the more affordable tuition, which I know might be shocking, the shorter degree course, or even the chance to travel while I studied. It was strictly to study archaeology. I registered with a different university to study classical archaeology, but by the second semester, when the time came to register for my next year's classes, I found myself deeply disappointed with the lack of modules available in archaeology, despite the course itself. And that disappearing act of modules previously available cemented in my head that there was no future for me there in archaeology. Instead, I reapplied to a series of new universities, Sheffield among them, and I'm so glad I did. And I found something that's becoming sadly increasingly rare, the chance to study in a department of archaeology, not just a few classes crowded in somewhere else to give variety to the curriculum. My 3 years studying archaeology here are some of the happiest and the most rewarding of my life. And I might be a bit biased because I've met my partner here. However, more than anything else, I got to work and learn about something that I was deeply passionate about. And beyond that, I developed skills, real employable skills. Archaeology doesn't just teach how to properly identify the age of 16th or the movement of the Anglo-Saxons. You learn to think critically, to write well, to develop your own thought, analyze data, and so much more. You learn how the people that came before you affected our landscape and the world that we live in now, how to be a global citizen, and how your actions, our actions, will impact our landscape beyond all of our lives. Something we all know to be a pressing matter and of the utmost importance. I chose to pursue my master's degree in journalism, and despite these two disciplines being entirely different, I never felt unprepared or uneducated. Archaeology at Sheffield prepared me for my future, however I chose to shape it, beyond the 3 years of the study with this department. It does the same for thousands of other students, whether they choose to pursue their postgrad studies at Oxbridge, like many of my course mates did, or to stay here in Sheffield and pursue masters and PhDs as my friends do now, or whether they chose to do something entirely different, like, I don't know, work in a students' union. An article published back in May in Big Issue called the proposed closure of our Department of Archaeology a symptom of something darker, and they're right. We saw the former Education Secretary Gavin Williamson call for a crackdown on quote-unquote dead-end courses, undermining the very value of creating educated global citizens and the sharing of knowledge. We've seen cuts to funding of courses in the arts and the office students, and in the last few months, we've seen Chester's Department of Archaeology threatened as well as Worcester's. As an archaeology graduate, as an international student who efforted my life as I knew it to study this subject here in this city with this department, I know that we're taking away the opportunity, not just for home students from across the country to study the discipline and make our national heritage sector a better place, but we're also taking away the opportunity for international students from all over the world to look to Sheffield's archaeology as an academic example and a chance to pursue their passion. University and the sector as a whole to take stock of their actions now, to look at what they're risking. Imagine the knowledge and the research and the passion coming to Sheffield that could be lost, transferred somewhere else, or that was never given the chance to develop at all. So do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Taylor and Samantha. And that's all, folks. I guess what I can say is that the amount of speakers and the perspectives we've been hearing in volume just show the depth of feeling and the anger and frustration of staff and students at this institution about what's happening here locally and across the sector across the UK. So we're going to close with a couple of speakers who are going to talk very briefly about what's happening elsewhere. And first off, we're going to hear from Adrian Sullivan from the University of Leicester. Adrian is a lecturer in archaeology. She was vice chair of Leicester UCU and has been supporting colleagues at risk of redundancy this year. And then straight after that, we'll hear from Peter Bulmer, another archaeologist. Apparently archaeologists are great trade unionists and activists, as well as being great researchers and teachers. And Peter is from Liverpool University UCU, where we've heard already about the fantastic wins they've had this year. So Deirdre and then Peter.
Can you hear me? Yeah, that's friends, Yorkshire Coast, fellow trade unionists, we're all here now, all together. I'm very honoured to bring a message of support from UCU at Leicester, and especially my colleagues in the School of Archaeology and Ancient History. Like many, our first reaction was news. The senior management was planning to close undergraduate studies in archaeology at Sheffield, was simply met with complete disbelief. Quote my colleague Graham Shipley, he said, "The loss of archaeology at Sheffield is the world's loss. One of the finest archaeology departments in the world cannot be allowed broken up and scattered to the four winds." Last night I was talking to an Irish postgraduate student on the phone, and he echoed this sentiment exactly. He said, waves had blown over the island of Ireland when they heard that Sheffield Archaeology was to close. So greatly is its reputation and its legacy valued outside its own workplace. Now, I come from an institution that has seen more than its fair share of battles against redundancies and overall intellectual depletion, find other words for it too, in the past few years. In 2016, we witnessed management cases against physics, cancer studies, history of art, and mathematics. In 2018, it involved a suite of departments in life sciences being merged and purged, as well as the School of Education. In 2021, just as all staff were making incredible efforts, personal efforts, to offset the impact of COVID on students, it was the turn of English, mathematics again, informatics, believe it or not, neuroscience, psychology, and the business school, as well as library and educational services. And over 60 posts were, well, basically it was anticipated that there would be 60 job losses. At every stage, we have had to fight our leadership, to quote Longfellow, ball for ball, from behind each fence and farmyard wall. Never miss an opportunity to stand firm and fight back. Don't ever think that you've lost the cause, because once you start thinking that, you have. We lobbied for support across the globe for our departments, and we got it in some cases, particularly the business school and mathematics. Senior scientists everywhere were scandalized at the idea that a department which thought it could be research-led in the field of science would think it could do without pure mathematics research. Anyhow, we balloted successfully for local industrial action in 2018 and again in 2021. The latter has also involved a UCU academic boycott. In 2018, we had no compulsory redundancies. This year, the total is sadly 11. But this metric of success does not adequately capture the scale of the misery and despair experienced by individuals, many of whom were pushed into voluntary severance deals, and the dreadful damage done across the board. Not only in terms of its reputation, but also to staff morale and commitment. And I can assure you, because I asked this question in many of the meetings I attended, there was no risk assessment. There was no concern about the institution's reputation. There was no concern about the long-term impact of this awful, awful strategy. It has even been claimed that the reason for inflicting this dreadful situation is not financial, but the need to become citizens of change. This is simply a new marketing brand cooked up by the marketing department, which has grown as other places have shrunk within the institution. I don't know if that's your experience here, but I suspect it's quite widespread. The areas of endeavour to be disposed of were deemed to be not aligned with new institutional goals, such as artificial intelligence. I do wish that there'd been a bit more of the ordinary kind of intelligence. Now, folk who were improperly aligned went through a series of collective and individual consultations, and I sat through many of these in English, maths, and informatics. They were show trials, with virtually no shift from the initial core redundancies, and significant chunks of neuroscience and the business school were lost, as well as completely English language and medieval English. This in the institution that free trades globally on Richard III. Pure maths, though reduced, has hung on. I have no doubt that Vice-Chancellors get together and share ideas. And the full horror of the Leicester story, to me, is that this will be presented at such gatherings as a successful strategy, producing a more sustainable institution with a large debt, however, occasioned by a rebuilt students' union, an enormous multi-storey car park, and the inevitable expanded luxury student housing. And I'm sure many of you will have been subjected to pressures to swallow this kind of rhetoric as representing a way forward, rather than simply a way into academic and intellectual irrelevance. The broader objectives of closing archaeology at Sheffield completely elude me. Commercial archaeology is not only thriving, it has even been identified as an area with a skill shortage. And Sheffield has trained personnel and impacted on the discipline across the world. To finish, I will just give you a couple of messages from two of my colleagues who have strong links with this department. One is Ollie Harris, he's a lecturer in prehistory, and he said, as an undergraduate student there, the experience was utterly transformative, and their contribution to the field will never be forgotten, whatever the short-sighted decisions of the university. And from Jose Carlos Lopez, he said, this is very moving, I think. I simply have no words to say what Sheffield means to me. Everybody who knows me a bit knows that I am who I am, for good mainly, but also for the best part of the bad, which is a nice convoluted way of putting it, thanks to Sheffield. He would like to pass you all a big hug and all his love. Thank you very much, Solidarity Sheffield. Bring a massive message of solidarity from the University of Liverpool. I'm really pleased to be here today to see what a brilliant demonstration we've got one on Friday, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to do a demo like this as well. Obviously, I'm here for two reasons. Firstly, of course, we're on national dispute. There's about 60 universities all fighting back. What I realised through the dispute at Liverpool is how important solidarity is between different university union branches. So this is why I wanted to be here today to show support. But I think what's really important as well is that solidarity between staff and students. You know, we're all fighting a marketised system of education that says students are just there to make profits. They're there so we can get their student fees. Staff are expendable, we can pick them up and drop them whenever we want to. I don't know what it's like, well, I do know what your VCs are like here actually, because I hear a lot of bad things about them, but the VCs at the University of Liverpool are sending out loads and loads of messages to students saying that staff are trying to disrupt your education by going on strike, and we don't care about students, we don't care about the quality of your education. But I would say to them, it's 2021 to our students want to be taught by people who get a 15% pay cut or 50% less money just because they're a woman. Do our students want to be taught by people who get 17% less wages because they're black, or 9% wages less because they're disabled? This is the 21st century. It's an outrage that the higher education sector allows these divisions and this discrimination to continue. And I would say our students don't want that. We want a university system that reflects the values that we've got in the wider world, that we want to see change, that Black Lives Matter, that things need to be different. So yes, we do have to disrupt education, we do have to disrupt universities, because you know what, last summer, when Black Lives Matter protests were going on, our VC was all like, oh yeah, it matters at the University of Liverpool, isn't it terrible, things should be better, all just like lip serving to it. Things will not change unless we fight for it. We're the educators, the people who work in universities, that have been doing it for years. We're the ones that care about the quality of education, and we're the ones who are going to have to fight to make change happen. Because the students at the top of the university and the bankers behind them really don't care about our students. They don't care about research, they don't care about the quality of what we do, they just care about how much money they can make for it. So it comes to trade unionists that we have to fight for this stuff. The second reason I've come to Sheffield, of course, is somebody said, I am an archaeologist. I bring a massive message of solidarity from the archaeologists and the history, languages and cultures department of the University of Liverpool. We are outraged by the attacks on archaeology here. I mean, people know already, this is a world-class, amazing place to study archaeology. It's what, when I was studying archaeology at Liverpool, I was secretly envious, don't tell Liverpool. Secretly envious And I always thought one day I might get a job in Sheffield, or it was something I dreamt of doing. That dream's all gone. How can we do that if we're going to let Sheffield archaeology go? I think it's a good way. It's not gone yet, and it's damn well shouldn't go. You know what? Chester, they were going to shut down archaeology at Chester, and they fought back. They built up their union branch, they stood side by side with students, and they fought back. Chester archaeology saved, but they've gone for Hull, they've gone for Worcester. It's like they want to get rid of archaeology in the north of England. You know what? Archaeology, not always nice on it, but it started with a lot of posh rich blokes going off around the country, around the world, nicking nice things and sticking in their cabinets and showing off. We don't want archaeology to become another pursuit that is only for rich men to do. They can study it at Oxford if they want to, but what about northern archaeology that's been so important, so special, so impressive around the world? I've had the privilege of digging holes side by side with Sheffield archaeologists and learned a massive amount while I was doing it. I want that opportunity again, I would do it in a heartbeat. We can't let them do what they're perhaps planning to do. But what I would say from my experience of fighting in Liverpool is that these threatened cuts can be stopped, right? University of Liverpool, they wanted to get shut of 47 members of staff, not in archaeology, over in health and life sciences, doing some weird stuff I don't even understand. Alright, it's not my subject area, but tons and tons of archaeologists, historians, humanities and social sciences staff stood side by side with them, and we fought those cuts because we knew that if they could get rid of jobs there in one department, they'll come for another and another, and eventually they'll get rid of us once we don't make as much money and bring enough research income in. We knew that we had to stop those cuts happening by standing together, and really it's a message of solidarity today. We can't let them do what they're doing to the languages department. We cannot let them shut down archaeology at Sheffield. It will make too much bigger of a dent, and it means no job will be saved. Everybody might as well consider yourself on a temporary contract if we let them do this. So the message of solidarity I bring is not just, well, we care about what happens here and we want it to be okay. We know that solidarity between branches and between students and staff means that you can win this dispute. We will stand with you side by side. We're not going to let this happen. So let's have these 3 days of strike and come back in the new year fighting, not Thank you very much for listening. Solidarity is what makes all the difference when we've got to stand side by side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter. A very final speaker is a good friend from down the road at Hallam University, UCU, and also the president of the Trade Union Council here in Sheffield, Bob Jeffrey.
Hello, everyone. It's not warm, is it? Okay, thank you for staying. As president of Sheffield Trade Union Council, I'm here to extend the solidarity of the entire trade union movement of this city to all of you in your struggles over pay, pensions and working conditions. And to add our voice to the condemnation of the disastrous decision to close this city's globally renowned archaeology department. This department, established over half a century ago, has a justly deserved reputation for the quality and significance of its research. This is testified to by the outpouring of opposition to the employer's short-sightedness, from international organisations to thousands of ordinary local Sheffield people. That such a decision has been made regardless of the fact that the economic argument has been blown apart by the diligent examination of the finances by this UCU branch, is clearly an act of cultural vandalism. And an act that suggests that the managers who have implemented this decision are either, or are trying to implement this decision, are either grossly incompetent or on a mission to destroy those disciplines associated with the arts, cultures and humanities. Perhaps it should come as no surprise that such vitriol is directed at these subjects. After all, who wants students who learn the lessons of history, who can make the connections between economics, society, politics and culture, and who draw on the best ideals of civilizations, past and present, to articulate demands for a better world? We see beyond the self-interest dressed up in the language of market imperatives. We understand the value of a project of enlightenment that must be protected, nurtured, and accessible to all. We reject the distinction between so-called marketable and non-marketable forms of knowledge, and we certainly reject the distinction between so-called Marks and Spencer and Aldi students and the enormous condescension that it represents. At Sheffield TUC, we see the attacks in higher education, be it closures and redundancies at Sheffield and Goldsmiths, the attempts to undermine the USS Pension Fund, the rampant casualisation, increasing workloads, erosion of pay and equality pay gaps for exactly what they are. Attempts to further marketise our university for the benefits of the bosses to the detriment of students, workers and the wider community. And a direct assault on one of the best organised workforces in the country. We understand that your fights are not just about the right to dignity for hundreds of thousands of workers at universities. They are for the principles of free, universal and democratic education and against the future of spiralling tuition fees and the exclusion of the next generation from the possibility of comprehending, let alone challenging their situation. This may be a fight in which you have suffered setbacks over the last 2 decades, but what the Labour movement sees today is a union of workers who are increasingly confident in the defence of their terms and conditions. Whether it is winning reductions in workload at Sheffield Hallam University, my branch, or the recent winning of more secure contracts here at the University of Sheffield, or the overturning of redundancies at the University of Liverpool. Members of the UCU have shown themselves more than equal to the task that lies ahead of you. In rising to these challenges, you are acting as a beacon for all workers and a shining example of what collective organisation can achieve. The same is true of the IWGB couriers and the stagecoach bus drivers organising with Unite that I hope everyone will try and support over the coming weeks. So as the umbrella organisation for all trade unions in this city, we call upon the entire Labour movement to throw its weight behind your disputes, and we commend all of those taking action around the country today. Solidarity!
Thank you so much, Bob, and thank you to everyone who's lasted to the end of this cold and wet day. It seemed so bright and sunny earlier, didn't it? I'm going to close with a letter of solidarity we've been sent from Olivia Blake, who's the MP for Sheffield Hallam. She says, I'm sorry my parliamentary duties mean I can't be with you, but I want to extend my support to the rally today. The funding model for our universities is broken, making businesses of institutions that should house communities of learning, exploration and imagining. It's created a market where the value of an education is falsely equated to a price tag and the longer term investment yield of a higher salary. All in a labour market where those salaries exist only for a privileged few, and where university staff face impossible workload, stagnating and unequal pay, casualisation and attacks on their pensions. The Archaeology department at Sheffield is not only an asset to our university and our city, but to the quality of our national research culture and the UK's international reputation for research excellence. For it to become a casualty of the marketised system is a tragedy. Closing it is a mistake. The same goes for the changes in the School of Languages. Both come at the same time as staff at this university and institutions across the country begin industrial action. Today I want to send a message of support to all those taking action to defend pensions, pay and working conditions, and to all those who stand up for what higher education should be and what the Archaeology Department and the School of Languages and Cultures at Sheffield embodies. Thank you for the action you are taking. Solidarity. And so just had the left group of councillors that decided not to cross the picket line and join the council meeting this afternoon. They would like to say a few words. So thank you for coming along.
Solidarity, brothers and sisters. We today, the Labour Group, we've had to go in because, like yourselves, we do things in a democratic fashion. We've taken a vote amongst Labour councillors today and decided that we will not be taking part in the council meeting in the Octagon Centre. We want it. Anybody who's been in industrial disputes before know that there are canteen meetings, decisions are took democratically, show of hands, and I can assure you today it was a unanimous decision that we do not take part in that building or take part in any of that discussion today in the council. What we do say is that we want both the employers and the union round the table, getting a deal, striking a deal that is fit for everyone. But our anger has to be focused at this government. The cuts that they are putting on us is unreal. The cuts facing Sheffield City Council and our most vulnerable people in this city is hurting, and they do not give a flying dinner. We, as Labour councillors, we've had to make a hard decision today by not taking part, not representing our constituents, but we do believe in solidarity all the way. Solidarity, brothers and sisters.
Very much. That's Terry Box, leader of the council. We really appreciate that offer of solidarity and the demonstration of that today. Okay. All right, so that's the end of our rally today. What I'd like to remind people of, firstly, I just want to say thanks to the live streamers. Joshua Astrip has been coordinating that. It's available on the Safe Sheffield Archaeology Facebook page if anybody would like to check that out afterwards. A reminder, tickets are back tomorrow morning from 8 o'clock and on Friday morning at 8 o'clock. Please do get down to the tickets and offer your support. We will continue to be there throughout the remainder of the week. For those who are UTU members, we've also got a general meeting on Friday as well in the Student Building. For now, let's go get warm. I look forward to seeing you on the tickets later in the week. Thank you all for coming along.